Chicago Manual of Style. Author date text citations. Basic form 16.3. The basic form of the author date citation in running text or at the end of a block quotation consists of the author's last or family name and the year of publication of the work. In this context, author means the name under which the work is alphabetized in the list of references and may thus refer to an editor, compiler, or organization as well as to a single author or to multiple authors. The abbreviations ed. and comp. are not included in the text reference, but they do appear in the reference list entry. No punctuation is used between the author's name and the date in the name citation. Where the reference list includes two or more works by different authors with the same last name and the same date, it is necessary to include the author's initials in the text citation. Chicago Manual of Style, Documentation 2, 16.57. For books still in process of publication, forthcoming or in press may be used in place of the actual publication date. It is also permissible to use either an announced publication date or N.D. in place of the date. While not strictly accurate, N.D. may be more practical than forthcoming or in press in reference lists and text citations because it fills approximately the same amount of space as a date, and if the actual date becomes available during the proof stage, it may be slipped in without much resetting. If either N.D. or an announced future date is used in this way, either forthcoming or in press should be added at the end of the reference list entry, so that the reader will know the work has not yet been published. Chicago Manual of Style, Journals, 16.103. Journals are specialized periodicals and have more restricted circulation than popular magazines. They are often intended for an academic or scholarly audience. It is more important to give volume and issue numbers in citing these publications than in citing magazine articles. Except for the differences outlined above, the guidelines applicable to journal entries in a bibliography generally apply to reference list entries. The examples in the paragraphs that follow illustrate the various kinds of journal entries likely to be found in reference lists and the variations in style permissible in such entries. Note systems of documentation do not in themselves require bibliographies, because full bibliographical details can be given in a note accompanying the first sentence to a work. In a work containing many citations in notes, however, a bibliography in addition to the notes is a most useful device for the reader and an economical one for the author and publisher. The reader not only can locate each source readily, but can also see at a glance the sources the author has relied on or has selected as most germane to the subject. When the book does include many citations in notes, full particulars for each source need appear only in the bibliography. Citations in the notes may thus be considerably shortened or abbreviated. Various forms such a bibliography may take are 1. A straight alphabetical list, 2. A list divided into sections according to kinds of material, subject matter, or other appropriate categories. 3. An annotated bibliography. 4. A bibliographical essay. Author is to be as confused as Alice at the Mad Hatter's tea party. You remember what the Hatter said to her? Not the same thing a bit. Why, you might just as well say that I see what I eat is the same thing as I eat what I see. British practice is often, though not always, the reverse. Single marks are used first, then double, and so on. 1027. The placement of terminal punctuation in a sentence ending with two or more sets of closing quotation marks follows a principle similar to that governing such placement in a sentence ending with a single set of quotation marks. Question marks and exclamation points are located just within the set of quotation marks ending the element to which such terminal punctuation belongs. In the example above, the exclamation point belongs to the speech of the Mad Hatter and therefore is placed within the closing single quotation mark ending that speech. Had the exclamation point belonged to the speech quoted by the Mad Hatter, it would belong inside the first set of quotation marks. I eat what I see. Had it belonged to Henry's speech, it should have gone just before Henry's closing quotation mark. I eat what I see. And finally, had it belonged to the narrator, quoting Henry, quoting all the rest, it should have been placed outside all of the closing quotation marks. I eat what I see. A period, and for multiple quotations ending before the end of the including sentence, a comma is by convention placed inside the first set of closing quotation marks. I eat what I see. Chicago Manual of Style. Documents. 1539. Documentation 1. Footnotes. 1541. Page makeup. Computer elements, both hardware and software, can now be programmed by professional compositors to cope adequately, expeditiously, and economically with the scholar's predilection for notes at the bottom of the page, and the decades-long resistance to notes in this location is now undergoing some relaxation. 1542. Minimizing the problems. When the publisher and the author have agreed on the use of footnotes, the author can minimize the problems that will arise in page makeup by limiting both the number of footnotes per page and the length of individual notes. Good bookmaking still requires that the type pages, including the footnotes, all be the same length, and that each footnote appear on the same page as the reference to it, although the final note on a page may run over to the next page. Thus, a manuscript peppered with footnote references, two or more of which might fall in the last line of text on the printed page, may well be a typesetter's nightmare. Similarly, several long footnotes and the references to which fall close together toward the end of a page present a sometimes insoluble problem in any kind of page makeup. 1543. Appearance. In addition to the typesetter's problems in reproducing heavy documentation as footnotes, there is the matter of appearance. A page of type containing more footnote material than text not only is unpleasant to the eye, but may discourage all but the most determined reader. In those few scholarly works where footnotes necessarily outweigh the text, publisher and typesetter must understand and cope with the difficulty majority of cases, however, careful employment of the measures discussed above ought to ensure a more sensible balance between text and notes and leave a more attractive presentation of material. Chicago Manual Style. Public Documents 15.341. Reports and Documents. Reports and documents of the Senate and the House are each numbered serially through one version, 1 year, or through one Congress, 2 years. References to these reports and documents, therefore, should include the Congress and session numbers